everybody, it's Romania Black. I'm reacting to RWBY because of course I am. Actually, to be honest, the very first reaction I ever watched on YouTube was a RWBY reaction. That's what got me into this whole idea of maybe reacting in the first place. And that person was Murder of Birds, was Arnold. So I put a link down to his channel down below because his RWBY reactions, he's just so energetic and fun, and I love watching them. The only other RWBY reactors I really watch are Semblance of Sanity and Zhao Long, the two girls. I think they're from Scotland. But I put links to both their channels down below as I'm recording this. So yeah, I didn't start watching RWBY from Volume 1 when it first came out. One of my best friends, her sister, was actually talking to me one evening and was like, "Have you watched RWBY?" And I was like, "No, I don't know what that is." And so it was right towards the end of Volume 3 when she was watching. She's like, "You have to watch this." So I watched Volumes 1 and 2 and I was like, "Oh, this is cute. This is unique. This is fun." And then it got to Volume 3 and I was like, "Wait, what is happening? Why is this? This is suddenly shifting tones and it's getting dark and what's happening?" And from there, I was kind of hooked. So if you've not watched RWBY before, I would highly encourage you to watch it. It's fun. It's got a lot of stuff going on. And obviously we're on Volume 8, but to be honest, there's usually only 12 to 14 episodes a volume. And especially the first couple of volumes, they're very short. So you could catch up in a weekend if you really wanted to. And so I'd recommend you do that because it's really good. But those of you that have watched RWBY, just a few notes before starting. 8's my lucky number, so of course when it's Volume 8, I have to react to it, right? Just a few notes. I'm sure that as I go along and watch this, and as we analyze at the end of each episode, I'm going to be bringing out stuff that I've noted from previous volumes or things that I like. Volumes 1 and 2 are great. Volume 3 is that turning point where the whole series kind of comes into its own. It's like, oh, that's what this show is about. Okay. I like Volume 4 for the sole purpose of everybody gets out of the school and we get out into the real world and we start to deal with themes of loss and themes of moving forward. We get introduced to Oscar, who, by the way, Oscar Pine's my favorite character in the show, so I love Oscar. I relate so much to his farm upbringing. But yeah, and I love The Wizard of Oz, so of course every reference I'm like, but I love Oscar's character. We get introduced to that, introduced to a lot of different concepts, and get little tiny foreshadowings of things to come. A lot of people don't like Volume 5. I'm okay with Volume 5. I watched Game of Thrones too, and Volume 5 is very, very similar to Season 5 of Game of Thrones. It's a transition and a setup volume. I feel like Volume 5 is setting up characters, it's setting up plot lines, it's setting up conflicts that get resolved and expanded upon in later volumes. So I'm okay with it. To be honest, the entire Raven reveal of her being the Spring Maiden, I can go back and watch that episode any day because I'm like, oh, it's such a good plot twist. And Vernal, R.I.P. Vernal, her character design, her character, too soon. Gone too soon. But to be honest, Volume 6 and 7 I really, really enjoy. Volume 6 has probably one of my top episodes of the entire series, which is Episode 3, the entire reveal of Ozpin and Salem's backstory. It's like you've built up multiple seasons waiting to find out what's happening between these characters, and then you get their backstory, and it's like, oh my gosh! And the whole dynamic of the story changes in that episode. It's like there is before Season 6, Episode 3, and then there's after Season 6, Episode 3, and I'm here for it. I love that setup, and there's so many questions it asks, and I haven't watched any of the subsequent videos that they've made going into Volume 8, so I haven't read the Grimm Tales book that's come out, and I haven't watched the other videos just solely because I wanted to go in this blind. I'll probably go back and watch some of those videos afterwards. I know there's been some people react to them, but I wanted to come in as fresh as possible. So I haven't watched I've watched the series of Remnant about the history and stuff like that, but I haven't watched the new videos that have come out. I'm failing as a RWBY fan. But Volume 6, that episode 3, and then the whole deal with the apathy. The apathy is some of my favorite Grimm. Like that whole, whenever RWBY decides to be a horror genre, I love it because it's so unexpected and you're like, oh, this is creepy, and I kind of like it. So that whole apathy thing. And then Maria Calavera. I love Maria. She's wonderful. I love her character. And then Volume 6, I will admit, for me, it ends a little anticlimactically, but it ends as it should because it's setting up Summer Rose's character. It's getting us to Atlas. It maybe wasn't my favorite finale, but Volume 7 is my favorite finale so far. Like, Volume 7 from start to finish, I really, really enjoy. There's only one aspect I don't like about it, which is probably everyone's least favorite aspect about it. But I love Oscar's development as a character. This whole, like, kind of foreshadowing of the osmosis process, which I'm sure we'll talk about in this volume. The development of Ironwood, like, Ironwood is such a great character, and his voice actor is like, some voice actors, you're like, you just want to listen to their voice say anything. It's like Morgan Freeman narrating. I'm like, I would have James Ironwood narrate my life story. But that whole development, the introduction of Robin, Penny being the Winter Maiden, totally on board with it. Winter's character development and the potential for her character development. Neo, Cinder, Salem, obviously. Salem just coming in with this Moby Dick energy, like here I am, what now? It's like, ah! And that whole finale, like, I wish I'd been doing reactions when I watched the Volume 7 finale, because my jaw, like, in the last moments of that volume was on the floor. I was like, all of this setup. But yeah, the only aspect about Volume 7 I wasn't crazy about, which surprises probably no one, is not Clover's death. Because Clover, I mean, the moment he said his semblance was good luck, I was like, oh, you're dead. It's like, our protagonist cannot have good luck in this series, so you're not going to be in it much longer. And it wasn't the fact that Crow's weapon killed him, because I think that's like poetic justice. Like, it makes so much sense that the bad luck trumps the good luck. But I do think that the means of it, the way it got there, was a little stretchy for me. But I have faith in the writers that it's gonna that there's reasoning behind it. Like, I know there's reasoning behind Clover's death, and I know a lot of people are upset with it, and it's justifiable because Clover was just coming into his own with Crow being characters that they're like, no. But I'm curious. I know we'll probably talk about the Staff of Creation and theories behind that. We're going to probably talk about that. Again, I haven't watched those other videos, so I'm sure most of you that have will be like, well, according to the videos, and I'll be like, please tell me. But yeah, so that's my catch-up, my mini catch-up on RWBY. I really like this series. The animation's just gotten better and better with it. I feel like the writing, the last volume, was just that it went some crazy places, and I'm here for it. So I'm excited to see what Volume 8 brings to us. Really, really curious. There's 14 episodes this volume, which the last time we had a big volume was at Volume 5. So I'm really curious. Atlas, the whole dynamic of Atlas and Mantle and the elitist versus the second-class citizens is so fascinating to me. And there's so many aspects I feel like we're going to talk about at the end of this volume as it comes back up. But I hope y'all are on board because I'm excited for RWBY. It seems weird that we're watching it now because usually there's RTX, there's conventions and stuff in the summer and you get hyped about it, and there's not really been, it's been kind of very subtle. And now it's just like, oh, wait, here you go. And it's like, ah! So I hope you all enjoy this reaction. If you've not watched RWBY, I hope you go back and watch it. But if you have watched RWBY, I'm really curious to talk with y'all down below because this is definitely a show that you can discuss and have theory crafting and talk about where it's going, because it usually throws in some surprises that you're like, what's happening? So I'm curious. But anyway, without being said, I hope as I'm watching this, the time it comes out, I'm sure this whole server is just going to be like everybody watching. So hopefully it doesn't get bogged down. But thank you all so much for watching. I'm excited. The openings are always great. I think my favorite opening so far has been season 6. Like, I've listened to Rising in full, and I really like the song Rising. So the soundtrack's its own point of discussion. So yeah, let's just dive in, y'all. So I hope y'all enjoy the reaction, but we're going to start RWBY Volume 8, Episode 1, Divide. Oof. Here in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Let's go. Neo. Okay, so starting back through the beginning here and just going through Cinder's backstory looking back through this with the sound off, so Cinder, obviously Cinderella vibes. So are we guessing like her being powerless and there? I love that contrast of her like scrubbing the floor and then scraping the chair, like as part of like a nervous gesture or anxious. I really am glad that hopefully we're getting some Cinder backstory because, as some other reactors have pointed out, like we've had 8 volumes and we've had no Cinder has been a main antagonist, but we have no backstory on Cinder, 0. So I'm glad we're finally getting something. Poor Neo. Neo, I love her character, and she's such a crazy character, and there's so much potential with her. But man, Salem not knowing who she is interesting, but then Cinder calling her an asset, like just a thing, is really. I get strong Neo turning vibes. Like, I get strong Neo's gonna be like, yeah, you all are a bit crazy and a bit much, so peace out. I just get that vibe that Neo's gonna do something by the end of this that is gonna help maybe RWBY and the others, because, or help no one, or maybe just help Neo. I'm on the bandwagon of Neo being a maiden. Like, I'm all on board on Neo being the maiden bandwagon. I'm all for it. So, whatever. But I felt for Neo in this first part here, because it's like she really is just out to get revenge on RWBY and help herself, kind of like Cinder. But oof. And then that line of Salem saying, just because you're more of a pawn doesn't make you a player, is like, oh, that was such a good line. It's like, yeah, Cinder doesn't have as much power as she thinks she does, which is probably going to be a source of conflict. It's like, and yeah, Cinder just taking credit for Neo's hard work. It's like, Neo put in some work to get that relic. Don't be dissing her. Also, the new outfits for Emerald, obviously they're in their winter garb, even though Hazel's sleeveless. He's like, I am not ever cold. And then poor Emerald, like, Emerald's lamented this last 2 volumes for Cinder being potentially dead, and then the first thing she does, she's like, Cinder! And Cinder's like, shut up. It's like, oh, poor Emerald. Like, I feel like Emerald and Neo are gonna have to come to grips with their relationship with Cinder, and how that either does or doesn't exist, because Cinder's got her own agenda, and I think Cinder may be a little delusional in how much control she has. It's like, do you have as much control as you think you do? But yeah, that's I like the idea of Oscar. First of all, Oscar, I did not expect RWBY and them to pick him up nearly as soon as they did. I thought he'd be like on his own for half the volume, but nope, he's back with everybody instantly, which is fine, because him and Ozpin can be that voice of reason to kind of keep the group together, because that's essentially what he does. Like, RWBY and Yang have very conflicting ideals right now, and I think if Oscar hadn't been there would have been an escalation and a fight, and they would have really been divided. But I love Oscar's note about, hey, we can be separated but still be going towards the same goal. Like, we don't have to be really divided. We can have differing plans, but meeting towards this common ground, this commonality here. I like that a lot. And he's kind of like, we're not divided. We're still trying to help save Mantle and Atlas. We're just doing it in the 2 ways we know how to. And I like that a lot. Like, I'm glad he was there to kind of be supportive. But also, that whole Oscar saying, we're not done talking, Ozpin. We still have things to discuss. I'm like, oh, good, because y'all need a heart-to-heart. Like, Ozpin's been MIA the last volume and a half. It's like, you and Oscar need to have a talk, because probably one of my favorite aspects about Oscar's character is him dealing with this reality that his soul is bonded with Ozpin, and that they're slowly merging together and becoming like this homogenous individual. Like Oscar, I'm on the camp of Oscar's gonna be merging with Ozpin, but his personality is becoming part of the collective. Like, there's gonna be his own personality added to it. So I don't think Oscar will lose necessarily his sense of entire individuality, but obviously Ozpin's there, so it's like, it kind of reminds me of in Dragon Ball Z when Nail and Kami fuse with Piccolo. Like, they're still there in the subconscious. They're just fused with him. So that's how I view it. I don't know. That may change, but I like the idea that him and Ozpin are potentially going to have a talk this volume, because it's needed. they need to have some discussion, especially if Salem's going after Oscar, and I'm like, Salem has no clue what Oscar looks like or that he is basically the new Ozpin. So I'm like, protect this boy, please, because she's dangerous. But I like this idea of Oscar fighting back. Like he's like, no, Ozpin, we still got words. We're not totally done here. Just I like Oscar taking the lead basically, which is cool. He's becoming the. I feel like he's becoming the primary individual, and Ozpin's becoming kind of the secondary on there, which I like a lot. In this episode, there's some visuals of some faunus in the background and one with an eye patch, which is interesting. I like that the Happy Huntresses are separated from Robin still, but they're not immediately planning a rescue plan. They're more concerned with protecting Mantle, which, as you should, Robin can take care of herself, and she's with Crow. I'm really nervous for the fact that Crow and Robin are with Ironwood and the Aesops right now because, man, it's rough seeing Clover's body there. It's rough. Seeing him dead there. And the Aesops are obviously going to hate Crow and like be... And Ironwood and Crow have had history, so it's like, what is that conversation going to be like? And as Ironwood's demonstrated, I would not be surprised if he just point blank just shot Crow in the face. So I'm like, a little worried about that, especially about him towards Robin, because it's clear Ironwood and Robin do not see eye to eye on pretty much anything. So a lot of people have theorized on the internet that the Staff of Creation is going to be used to bring Clover back. I'm torn, because on the one hand, cool, that'd be great if you were wanting to bring that character back from the dead, but I don't think that's going to happen because the Staff of Creation is created by the God of Light in this show, and the God of Light has established that death and life have their significant places and that you can't bring people back from the dead. You just can't. So it's like, it's looking at this, I'm like, yes, on the one hand, I would love Clover to be back in the series and to have a revival, a resurrection. But on the other hand, I'm like, the God of Light's whole point was that once you die, you die. That's kind of how the balance of life and death works. So I feel like using the Staff of Creation that the God of Light made to bring somebody back from the dead would kind of be hypocritical. And I also wonder if it would be kind of like a Full Metal Alchemist thing where it's like, you can't bring them back. It doesn't work that way. They may physically come back, but their soul and stuff, it doesn't quite work out. I could see that going horribly wrong. So I don't know. I'm kind of torn on that. If they find a way to justify it, and maybe they make the God of Light hypocritical. I mean, the two brothers have shown to be not exactly the most fair individuals, like in the case of Salem, like her punishment. So I'm like, I don't know. If that's the route we're going, then okay. I'm curious how they're going to do that. But it looks like Winter has like some therapeutic like stuff. Like I don't think her arm is metal or anything. I think it's just to help her shoulder and stuff heal. I'm curious. In the opening, it looked like she had a new look. But yeah, Ironwood is he's off the rails. And I'm worried that since he shot that one leader in Atlas, like I'm like, he didn't shoot the woman, which I'm surprised. I thought he was going to shoot them both, to be honest, unless he's just making a statement. I feel like he's going to enlist Watts to help him, which is a terrible idea because Watts does not care about Ironwood and would totally double cross him like in 3 seconds. Of all the Aesops, I feel like Harriet is the most on board with Ironwood because the other Aesops look genuinely terrified that he shot that guy, but Harriet's kind of like doing what we got to do, and I feel like in the opening, her and Crow seem like they're going to have words. So I'm curious how that's going to go. But yeah, back to the opening. Just looking through this. Obviously, Salem's going to try to get Oscar, which is terrifying. I like that Salem's voice actress is the voice actress for Princess Peach in Mario. Like, what a contrast. I love it. Just looking back to this opening, it's very like slow moving and kind of like deliberate, which is cool. It's a lot more somber than other openings have been. I like the visualization of the Aesops. Obviously, Crow seeking help from Robin. I like Ozpin in a cage. Salem hovering over him. That's terrifying. The divide between Nora and Ren. And there's that little brief glance of lightning. I don't know. A lot of people have been on the Nora is going to become a maiden bandwagon. If Nora and Neo become maidens, I'm fine with that. I don't think Nora will because she's part of Juniper, um, but yeah, the snow and the rose petals. It's interesting. So is it like winter and spring? Is Raven going to come back in this? Which would be great if Raven could come back in. And I like this like slow motion Cinder. Obviously, Cinder's biggest thing is her Grim. People talked about this in Volume 7, but her Grim is slowly taking over her arm and slowly taking over her body. Like the more power and the more time goes on, she's becoming more Grim, which is terrifying. And then, yeah, this whole idea of I like the shot at the end where the scythe is in the snow against the moon. So yeah, oh, lots of stuff going on, lots of setup in this. They don't know that Watts is still alive. Tyrion thinks he's dead. Salem doesn't know who Neo is. They've got the relic. She's after Oscar. Our team has split to try to accomplish their two objectives. I think the whole idea of the crater is a double-edged sword because on the one hand, yeah, you get everybody in one location. It's warmer. They can protect them better and monitor everything. But on the other hand, you've conveniently rounded everybody up into one location. So it's kind of... and I like looking at these sceneries here. We've got like the Robin and the people in the bar and everything. And these sets, designs here. This is a good episode. This is a good episode to start things off. I'm all about it. That's really cool. But yeah, very, very cool. I am on board with Volume 8 already. All right. I like that this was a lot of setup of where our teams are going, but we haven't given up too much away yet. We've got 13 episodes to see what the heck happens. I heard a rumor over the summer that these 13 episodes take place in the course of 2 days. And at first I was like, well, how are we going to do that? But then on the other hand, I'm like, oh, well, that makes a lot of sense because a lot can happen in 2 days, especially when there's a giant whale Grim hovering over you, spewing out Grim everywhere. So, and obviously that would make sense with the timeline. You've got 2 days to get to Atlas, to get Amity Tower up. I don't know. And then poor Penny. I feel sorry for Penny because Penny is clearly torn. She's got this new power, but she's had to turn her back on Ironwood and on Winter, who she saved, to keep this power and stay with her friends. So I feel like there's going to be a lot of conflict with her this volume too. So anyway, so much happening. I'm really curious if you guys have watched RWBY and you want to comment down below. Obviously, there's no worry about spoilers because we're going into this volume just going in. There's no manga spoilers, nothing to worry about. So yeah, feel free to comment down below. Let me know what you guys think, what your theories are. The thing I love about RWBY is we can all theory craft and see what's going to happen, and that's probably my favorite aspect about this show, is that there's just so much room for us as a fandom to talk about it. So yeah, I've rambled enough. Please let me know what y'all think down below. But in the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful day, wonderful week coming up. Stay safe, take care, and I'll talk to you all again soon with more RWBY. Bye.